It's becoming somewhat of a routine, and I love that it is, that I'm coming to you in early segments of the day to say, even since yesterday, we've received more positive news on polling and some other reporting that is showing us it's not just a vibe we're getting. It's not just because we're in a bubble feeling like there's a lot of hype around Vice President Kamala Harris's candidacy now, along with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. But this is actually being reflected in the data. I told you this yesterday. We have even more of it today, and this is sending Trump into a total meltdown. I'll show you that after I break down the news for you on this. We'll see Trump's reaction, which is the rant of all rants. He can tell it's slipping away. It's slipping away from him. Here's this from Mediaite, then we'll get to his reaction. New poll, Kamala Harris beating Trump by as much as 8 points. And this is just one poll to be accurate. We'll get to the average of polls. But in this one, as much as 8 points, with massive 21-point swing in favorability. In this short of a period of time, and this dramatic shift, you don't see, it's near unprecedented, this type of momentum shift and popularity shift for a candidate. Vice President Kamala Harris leads former President Donald Trump by as much as 8 points in a new poll, which also shows a massive 21-point swing in net favorability. And it goes through the specifics here. A new Marquette Law School national poll shows a dramatic shift in the VP's favor as she leads Trump by 6 points among likely voters and a whopping 8 points in a contest that includes independent candidates. I think it's not super productive to obsess too much over one poll, so we'll go quickly over this one, but it gives specifics there. And I do find really interesting this tracking in one poll or one polling group, what's the shift between a poll from some time ago and now on net favorability. And this one is shocking. The VPs viewed favorably by 47% and unfavorably by 50% for a net approval of -3, up from -24 in May. So just surging, again, like you rarely see. And then every time we check, even just from yesterday, we're seeing her favorability in the average of polls on this spike at a dramatic rate. In some polls that are cited here, she actually has a positive net favorability rating, which in the divided times that we're in is super rare with a national candidate like this. And then we're seeing the same thing in the average of polls here from Real Clear Politics. And this is visualizing it for us. You can see as Harris jumps in the race, she is behind on Trump. She's surged, and even from where we checked yesterday, has continued to surge, now leading by 0.5%. 0.5%. And then you look here at the 538 average of polls, and this continues to grow. She now has a 2.1 percentage point lead on Trump. And Jenna Ellis, interestingly, the former Trump lawyer, is even observing the contradiction within MAGA, saying MAGA with Biden says, look at the polls. Polls are so accurate all the time because they say Trump is winning. MAGA with Kamala, ignore the polls. Polls are fake and meaningless because they say Trump is losing. That's exactly what we're seeing. We're hearing already MAGA say, oh, this is all fraudulent. The polls are just being manipulated to help Kamala. But they were just citing those very polls as proof that Trump was so beloved by the American people. And also, I don't think they understand how movements react to polls. If they were trying to manipulate the polls to make it look like Harris had a lead, that's not necessarily the thing you would want to do if you want Harris to win, right? If you want her to win, probably her being slightly behind Trump is the best for motivation, because it's possible to win, but you got to work really hard. That's why I keep repeating, regardless of how positive things will eventually look on that front, we need to work as hard as possible. But even their logic on that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then you have this from Forbes. Harris ties Trump on election betting odds site for first time. Vice President Kamala Harris, for the first time on Thursday, tied former President Donald Trump in early election betting odds, according to betting site Polymarket, as polls show Harris gaining ground in critical swing states, with another betting site putting her well ahead of Trump. And Stephen Ratner put this on his X account, seeing that Harris indeed is now leading Trump in one of these betting sites. And Ron Filipkowski said Trump is melting down after the latest poll numbers. He's made 21 posts on social media so far this morning, and even since Ron Filipkowski posted that, Trump has posted a lot more. So let's get to that now. Trump's reaction to this election seeming to slip away from him. This election is about the economy, inflation, open borders, illegal immigration, respect for our nation, preventing World War III, and a 1929-style depression. The economy has done better than it would have under him because of the stewardship of the Biden-Harris administration. Inflation is down from its peak, obviously, but also down close to healthy economic figures. The borders are not open, and if we're talking about the borders, Trump shot down a once-in-a-generation border bill. Respect for our nation is higher now that Trump is not president, preventing World War III. Probably someone like him is not the best person to do that. And a 1929-style depression. I don't really know how to debunk something that he promised was going to happen if Biden became president. Then Biden became president. It didn't happen, and things actually got a lot better from where Trump left it. Kamala refuses, he says here, to do interviews because her team realizes she's unable to answer questions, much like Biden was not able to answer questions, but for different reasons. He's just plain This is not funny. He's just plain shot, and she's just plain incompetent. Her policies of open borders, no fracking or drilling for oil in any way, shape, or form, even though drilling is at record highs. Transgender, anything, anti-Israel, but gross incompetence toward getting anything done for the Palestinians. No clue on inflation or the economy, unlimited money to fight foreign wars, and so much more are catastrophic. If she's elected, our country and indeed the world will suffer a 1929-style Great Depression. It'll be the worst in history, and America will be destroyed. False. Moving on. I will expose Kamala during the debate the same way I exposed Crooked Joe, Hillary, and everyone else during debates. Only I think Kamala will be easier. Donald J. Trump. Why does he sign off on some of them and not sign off on other ones of them? But it's exciting to see that now he's shifting his rhetoric on a potential debate. Here saying he's going to expose her, meaning he's going to go to the debate. And I saw reporting that he actually is open to ABC again. He said, I won't do ABC. Now he's back open to it. Same thing with NBC, even, which is good to see because it doesn't make sense to do a debate on Fox News when they have a much harder time conducting a fair debate than what you would call more mainstream and what right-wingers call liberal mainstream outlets. They're able to conduct, regardless of their personal stances on issues, fair debates. Fox News struggles with that for ideological reasons. And so now Trump is seeing that things are getting a lot more difficult for him. He's actually no longer the clear leader, and so a debate might be necessary for him to try to levy some attacks that are effective on Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm very confident that she would perform very well. Then he says, we are living in a pro-criminal atmosphere. It will end on November 5th. I saw a friend of the show, Ann Rupart, say, we are. We're living in such a pro-criminal atmosphere that a presidential candidate is a criminal, being Trump. Then he's very upset because he's not the only guy who can get massive crowds now. And he's lying about Kamala Harris's rally by saying, if Kamala has 1,000 people at a rally, the press goes crazy. And talks about how big it was. And she pays for her crowd. Projection. When I have a rally and 100,000 people show up, the fake news doesn't talk about it. They refuse to mention crowd size. The fake news is the enemy of the people. And while he's been saying that for some time, some people don't take it seriously. We should take very seriously the fact that he is so willing to demonize the free press, going as far as to say they're criminals, enemy of the people, and then also the government should go after them, as we've reviewed. The radical left lunatics, he continues also always attack our brilliant and fair judges and justices. That's the name of the game. You attack the judges you don't like. They think they'll cower and give them decisions that they don't deserve. They play the ref, and what they do is probably illegal, but they don't care. It's the great, strong-willed, and brilliant judges and justices of our country who will lead us back to greatness. And this is also a lot of projection there from Trump. When he wants to get a different outcome from a judge, he pressures them, he smears them, he attacks them. And then when we express our outrage about bad decisions without levying the kinds of threats that he does against judges and justices, he tries to make some false equivalency. And we don't have time to go through all this, but aside from his own written post, he also just was re-truthing out the wazoo. You can see here, it just goes on and on and on all this morning. He's just going absolutely nuts. And this is, we've seen over and over again, this is how he copes. And so he's seeing the news. Yes, he's trying to tell people, oh, the polls that are bad for me, they're just fake polls. But he understands what this means. And we understand that regardless of how good things look by November, we're going to work just as hard to make sure that democracy prevails, common sense governance prevails, and governance in the interest of the people prevails. If you want to contribute to that, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of this video.